YouTube, what the crap's going on? Welcome back to some more vampire action. Using a bit of a different army here. I'm up against the Dwarfs, so I've got 4 Graveguard with great weapons. I want the armor piercing. I have 1 Cairn Wraith for more armor piercing. A bunch of zombies just for hit point sponge. And I've got a little fun group out here that I wanted to try out. Since the Dwarfs don't like cavalry, I brought 6 Black Knights. And then I have 3 Fell Bats clear over on the other flank. That's some pretty sweet, like, Undead Rohirrim going on out here. Oh yeah. So I've got all my Black Knights making their way up this hill. And let's go check out the Dwarf army. So the Dwarf army has 3 Dwarf warriors up front. There's a Thane on this side. He's got several miners, just as extra fill-in units. Warriors of Dragonfire Pass, Grumbling Guard, Dragonback Slayers, typical stuff. He's got Grombrindal, and I never really took the time to notice that this was Grombrindal. He's got a Trollhammer Torpedo and 2 Gunners. The Trollhammer Torpedo is actually kind of fortunate for me. I kind of think that this unit plays into my hands as long as I don't let it hit any key targets, and we'll see whether or not I do. But I've got a lot of cavalry. My idea is just to use the mass of these cavalry, because normally Dwarfs will be smart, and they'll bring like the Dragonback Slayers, and they'll make it really hard for you to make 1 or 2 units of cavalry effective. But I don't see how they're going to be able to effectively stop 6 units of cavalry. The big challenge with my army is that the Dwarfs typically rely on a lot of heroes, and I really don't have any hero killing power in this army. Strigoi is okay in combat, though, I mean, he's not going to be able to kill multiple Dwarf heroes. So my idea here is that hopefully I can knock out enough of the Dwarf army quick enough in order to have some of my infantry left to help me grind down the Dwarf leadership, which is always one of the tough nuggets to crack in a Dwarf army. So my opponent goes ahead and he's going to box up here in a moment because he sees all my cavalry coming up on his flank. So he's going to box up his guys, and if you look at his box, we're going to talk about this real quick. I accidentally strayed too close, and I take a couple of bullets here. It's not going to be terrible, but he's got some weaknesses in his box. Miners are the weakness. They don't have charge defense against large. So rather than charge all over the line, like where he's got Slayers and Grumbling Guard and some of this other stuff that has charge defense against large, I'm going to charge where he has miners, and I'm going to bust through them and cause a lot of damage. So my Cairn Wraiths get a little bit happy-go-lucky here, and they come in first, which I guess is okay. They're actually going to do okay, and then I'm going to support. I bring Strigoi in right away, which I don't believe I should have. I bring all my bats down just to distract his guns during my infantry charge, and it works brilliantly. And at this point, I'm kind of looking for that weak spot with my cavalry, and I decide that that weak spot is over here, where he's got these 2 miners. So my bats are doing what they need to do here. And I'm just tying down his gunners long enough that they can't really participate in these initial fights. So I've got my cavalry split up all over the back. My Graveguard with great weapons comes in and easily starts mopping the floor with Dwarf warriors. And that's exactly what I want here. I'm going to make the penetration through the Dwarf box. So you can see I hit the miners because they're weak, and I keep that downhill momentum. And I'm going to swing on through the Dwarf formation and into the back of their Dwarf warriors here. And then I'm just going to slide my cavalry around back here, doing as much damage as I can. If we take a look, his Trollhammer torpedoes, they're actually getting shots off right now. And I can't tell exactly where they're going, but they've gotten 6 kills. Looks like it seems like I saw a torpedo fall out there somewhere. And if he fires into this blob of cavalry, it's actually pretty bad for me. You can see his Dragonback Slayers chasing me. So I slink my cavalry on through my own lines. And I'm going to bring up the second group of cavalry to look for another weak spot or the gunners or other units to go after. You can see that some of the Dwarf warriors are already routing along the main lines, and I've drawn a bunch of his miners into this fight as well, and my cavalry is able to slip through and then trap some of his Grumbling Guard and Dragonback Slayers in this fight. Unfortunately, those Trollhammer torpedoes are firing. I haven't stopped them, but they're firing at a Cairn Wraith, which is a really odd choice. And I summoned a unit of Cryptorers right here in the middle of all the Dwarf leadership just to kind of keep them bogged down for a moment, and it also bogs down the Iron Drakes. And you can see back here that I have a unit of bats back into their gunners. I do get caught by their Warriors of Dragonfire Pass. I'm going to split up that cavalry, and I split this cavalry around the flank. So far it feels like the battle's going okay for me, except for that Strigoi got caught here, and he's in kind of a pickle. And I've got him in a spot that isn't really good. He doesn't have a lot of support. So it's not ideal for me. So I'm going to bring my cavalry in and do some more work here. The guns are starting to fire, so I bring in a cavalry unit to silence the guns. He does have this Warriors of Dragonfire Pass nearby. So I'm going to split some cavalry off around to charge it in the back when it swings into this fight. He's still firing with the troll hammer torpedoes, which is a bit annoying. But and right here, the biggest problem though is that Strigoi is dying in this fight, and I hadn't really noticed it at this point. And because I summoned the Crypt Horrors, which at this point I kind of look at it and feel like it was kind of a waste. I don't have the money to use the Invocation of Nehek, which would have been much more useful here, so I'm kind of regretting that decision at the moment. But, you know, I've still got a lot of power here in the form of my Black Knights. The Dwarfs really struggle to stop this kind of thing. So I'm just going to keep hammering them with cavalry charges and cycling and more cavalry charges. So I'm just going to keep laying it on thick. Now Grombrindal's down here, and he's one tough nugget to fight. I hit him with a Spirit Leech with Strigoi, and I'm going to run Strigoi away. He's crumbling, or at least he was. And I've got to get him away from the fight and let him replenish some of his health. He's got to stay alive if I want to have any chance of finishing this off. See here that my Black Knights are really doing most of the work, though my infantry's not doing bad. But against some of the more elite infantry, like these Grumbling Guards, they're not going to do great. The Runesmith, I can't kill it because, again, I've opted for a ton of cavalry rather than some White Kings or something that might help me like that. So that's definitely a struggle for me. I'm going to hit the back of this blob right here with some of my cavalry, and I'm just going to keep moving. I'm taking out the Troll Hammer torpedoes. And again, over here, just staying away from the some of these guys. His Slayers catch me out here, but I don't let them stay in me for too long. I end up moving on from here. They don't do too much damage. So his Slayers are now a long ways from the fight, and again, just cycling in. And as his the Warriors of Dragonfire Pass come in here, I'll eventually cycle out of that fight, but I'm basically taking his gunners off the field without them getting a chance to be terribly effective. Rune of Wrath and Ruin being used here by the Runesmith. It's a nice call for him. The Runesmith's trapped in combat here with a whole bunch of units, and it's really not ideal for him. It looks like he's trying to pull himself out of there. But the Runesmith is kind of stuck at the moment. So yeah, my cavalry continuing to chase down routing units and guns. Here the guns are going to get tagged by another charge from my Black Knights. So my Black Knights have just been roving the battlefield, mostly unchecked. But my infantry's taken a great deal of damage at this point. Some of them are crumbling, and that's not good for me. Definitely not good for me. You can see Strigoi continues to stay safe. He's healing up, so I'm feeling pretty darn good about life right now because he's out in a safe spot. I'm like, well, if I can keep Strigoi alive, we'll be okay. What I didn't catch here, because I had units in their way, but this Warriors of Dragonfire Pass was chasing Strigoi, and I didn't notice it. And they catch him out here, and I'm off microing the cav fight, and Strigoi gets caught here. So I had no idea this was happening, and it's really frustrating, because that's going to be potentially a battle-swinging loss for me there. So yeah, when I finally saw it was happening, I try really hard to get him away, and we'll see whether or not I succeed. I've still got most of my cavalry around. I think I've got all of them, actually. I've got all 6 units, and I'm just kind of slowly pummeling away on the Dwarf infantry here. I decide to charge in to the Slayers, because the Slayers actually do get killed with cycle charges. But it's best if you do so one from each direction, and you can kill the Slayers that way. Otherwise, I'm just doing my best to try and break up this fight. Strigoi gets away over here, but then the guns, like a couple of them just get like a couple shots at him, which is infuriating. And I can't cast Invocation of Nehek because his leadership has failed. And so because of that, he crumbles. And so I lose Strigoi, and I'm like, crap, that might have been the battle. But I'm not giving up yet. I did lose Strigoi, but I was like, I'm still going to try and win this. I don't know if I can because I've got a Thane and a Runesmith and Grombrindal still to deal with. Grombrindal's just beasting away my infantry at this point. He is a very good anti-infantry lord, and he is going to do very, very well against all these Graveguard with great weapons. They'll get a little bit of damage done on him, but very, very little. And at this point, I'm going to have to rely on my cavalry. I do have one pretty healthy Graveguard with great weapons out here, and the rest of my units are crumbling. So I'm about to be left with 1 infantry unit and about 5 cavalry units because this one's crumbling as well. So yeah, it's getting kind of tight for me, and the leadership is going to be very, very shaky for the vampires when they lose their heroes. So at this point I have to be very intelligent about where I take my battles and how I choose them. Rune of Wrath and Ruin. At this point I have no counter to it. I have to come in and charge, and he can use it as it cools down each time. Still got his Dragonback Slayers. But this is going to allow me to take the time to take out his Troll Hammer torpedoes to make sure all of his regrouping units get destroyed. So we'll fast forward through some of this. See here that I cycle in on his Warriors of Dragonfire Pass. I'm going to hit this regrouped Dwarf Warrior. I'm not going to give his leaders time to get in here and bog me down in a fight, and I have to stay away from those Dragonback Slayers because they poison my men and slow them down. I was hoping he would attack up the hill into my Graveguard, but since he's not, since I have the mobility, I'm going to chase him. I'm not going to make him chase me. So he comes down here and regroups in this little knoll with his Dwarfs. Still got these Warriors of Dragonfire Pass, and they've done some decent work, and he's got his Dragonback Slayers as well. These guys have also done some decent work. Grombrindal is the biggest threat here, though, and I don't know whether or not he has a smoke bomb or flash bomb at this point. I'm going to bring in my Graveguard with great weapons. I'm hoping these guys can tank enough hit points and tank enough damage to allow my cavalry to get this done. Ideally, though, maybe what I should have done was seen how much of the... Well, I mean, at this point, if I cycle the Dwarf Infantry and pull out, my cavalry is going to start to crumble, potentially, from leadership issues. So I go ahead and have to charge in my Graveguard. I need something to fix the Dwarfs. And then I'm going to go ahead and start charging in with my cavalry and do my best to start laying down as much damage as possible here. The Dwarf leadership, though, is going to be extremely strong because of the fact that all their leaders are right here, including a Runesmith. So it's going to be very, very difficult. And then he gets the nice Rune of Negation there. Things are going very well for him. This Graveguard, though, comes in and gets some nice work done because it has so many unit models left. So it's going to get a few kills on his remaining infantry. It's going to tie down his Thane, and it's going to cause immense damage to his Thane. So it's definitely paying dividends, and this is sure to be an extremely close battle. Did Grombrindal use his Flash Bomb? No. Rune Axe. Yeah, so I'm going to charge back in here. I'm trying to break the Dragonback, or not break them, I'm trying to destroy the Dragonback Slayers and then also the Warriors of Dragonfire Pass. If I can get rid of the 2 infantry units, I'm hoping that my Graveguard can live long enough to do some damage to his heroes while I cycle around with this blob of cavalry. Notice I came through my own units there. A little bit of crumbling. My leadership is very shaky. The power bar is starting to favor the Dwarf too, unfortunately, even though I'm taking some of his units off the field. As I lose this Graveguard, I'm starting to lose the balance of power pretty quickly. So there's almost no Dwarfs left, but it's Grombrindal and this Runesmith that are really propping up the balance bar. And then I see this Thane start to waver, and I'm like, ooh, if I can take him off, that might rebalance the bar. But I'm losing my Graveguard really quickly, and even though the Thane routes, it doesn't sway the balance bar. I charge him hoping for a quick kill, but my guys don't get that quick kill. They don't really cause a lot of damage to him, so this is kind of a rough position for me. I go ahead and decide to cycle out. Come to think of it, I'm kind of wondering if I shouldn't have just stayed in combat and just fought that one out, because then I suffer crumbling as I swing in and out of these fights. The Dwarf Thane gets away, and then my guys crumble. So this is unfortunate. It was very, very close, and I mentioned at the beginning of the battle that I didn't bring anything to kill the Dwarf heroes, and so this is not an entirely surprising... that's kind of cool with this one Black Knight out there, like, falling off his horse. Yeah, it's not an entirely surprising outcome, because I knew this very thing could happen, and sure enough, those are the only units left for the Dwarfs. So, as expected, I was able to wreck their infantry, but because I let Strigoi get killed, he would have had Spirit Leech and potentially... So I think the biggest mistake that I made in this battle was raising those Crypt Horrors. They didn't do anything, and they wasted 28 mana. And that would have been 2 Invocations of Nehek, which would have allowed me to have much more infantry alive, which would have helped me kill his heroes. So this one's on me, in my opinion. I'm the one that blew this, and could have done better there, but I did not. But hey, lesson learned, right? When you get in these situations, be careful what you use your magic on, because I really felt like that was the only thing that swayed that battle against me. If I hadn't used those Crypt Horrors for that, and I'd used the Invocation of Heck, my infantry would have done even better. Could have kept the Cairn Wraiths and other units driving out. Grombrindal has magic attacks, so the Cairn Wraiths would have had to watch out for that. And then that would have helped me keep Strigoi alive, and just could have completely changed this battle, because I got the work done that I needed to with the cavalry. It got a lot of kills. It prevented his Dwarf Warriors from doing anything useful. And it limited, like you see, some of his miners got chewed up pretty hard. His guns, minimal kills. He got a few kills with the Iron Drakes, but they weren't targeted on important units. It was really where I let Strigoi get killed and then cast that wrong spell. If I would have stayed away from that, I feel like this definitely would have worked out. It's kind of a fun army to bring against the Dwarfs here, because I'm trying to play against their their weakness, which is that lack of mobility. So bringing a big horde of cavalry, an undead Rohirrim, if you will, was something fun. Didn't work out this time, but I may have to try it again in the future. Hope you all enjoyed this one. What do you think? Do you like the undead Rohirrim? Was it fun? Was it a fun idea, even though I didn't execute it all the way? Hope you all enjoyed this. I love making these videos for you. Hope to see you back every time. And I will be back with more content soon. HeirofCarthage signing out for now.